All right, Casey Ray here. I'm not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right on in and get started on this. This is a dog training workshop. We are going to talk about how to select the proper dog training collar for your dog. All right. If you've ever enrolled into a training program or you've ever visited a trainer and they already know the collar that works good for your dog, turn around and go the other direction as fast as you can. All right, guys, because all dogs are different. They all have different personalities. And as soon as you run into a trainer that's going to do everything the one way, they're trying to make your dog fit into their unlimited awareness. So, like I said, if you're working with someone who says this is the way it's got to be from day one without even meeting you or your dog, look around a little bit. Use some awareness and kind of see what that trainer's about. But here we go. So what I'm going to cover here, guys, is all positive training versus balanced training. What's the difference there? There's a lot of he said, she said kind of thing, so I'm going to jump into that. 6 phases of dog training. Most people do not have a clue that there's 6 phases of dog training. Most people think there's one, a learning stage. And then when you complete it, you're done. And that's why a lot of people are in the situation they are, unfortunately. So I'll get into that as well. Training collars and tools that I recommend. How to properly fit the training collars and tools that I recommend. And then training collars and tools that I do not recommend. And we'll definitely get into that as well. And then will my dog always have to wear this collar? And we'll kind of discuss that towards the end of this as well. So let me jump right in, guys, and let's get after it, right? So basically what all positive versus balanced training is, all positive is where you're going to, they basically use treats and clickers and you do a ton of repetitions. And yes, it does work. There's nothing, I love all positive training. To me, it's just not ideal for an average dog owner. Okay, and because of that, I prefer balance training. What balance training does is it can get you to your goal a lot quicker because it's not all positive. You're putting the training in black and white. You're using both positive and negative reinforcement. Doesn't mean you got to be heavy-handed, mean, heavy corrections, anything like that. You're just using an approach where the dog understands right and wrong, black and white, instead of all just positive, 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 right? All white, white, white. We got to put things into so a dog learns. And that's kind of what I've just learned over 25 plus years, and I'm going to share it with you. Here's those 6 phases of dog training, guys. Awareness. Basically, we need to begin working with the owners and get them to understand human psychology versus canine psychology. They are not the same things. We really work on the awareness there so they understand going through this process who they need to be. You can't reinforce your children's behaviors like you would your dogs, and people are doing that left and right. And you might resonate with that if you're listening to this, but it's not ideal. You can't reinforce them the same ways, and that's why it's easy to reinforce the wrong behaviors, the wrong state of mind in a dog if you don't have some awareness of what's going on. So that's the first step. Then we're going to get into learning. Learning is where we are shaping behaviors. We use treats. It's all positive reinforcement. That's what learning stage is, and that's where going back to what I was just talking about, all positive training. Usually, that's all it is learn, 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 which is fine, but it takes a lot more repetitions because there's no reinforcing, which is your next phase, right? So, what we really want to do is we're going to shape all these behaviors using treats and markers, clickers. This is sit, this is down, this is come, this is heel, this is place, right? Unfortunately, what happens for a lot of people, if you only go through a learning stage, and this is what I'm getting at, if you graduate after you've been through that kind of program, that's great because your dog understands what everything means. But you've got to resonate and agree with me here that does your dog do it when you really need them to? And when do you really need them to? It's usually when there's a distraction. So if you haven't gone through farther in training and introduced a reinforcement stage, the proofing stage, you're definitely not going to be unleashing your dog and then worried about how to maintain it. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. But that's basically what a lot of people go through if they enroll in dog training with their dogs is they go through a learning stage and they graduate. So if that sounds like you, kind of pay attention here and see maybe this is an answer to why you're frustrated with maybe you didn't get the results you were looking for, right? And again, all positive versus balance. One is we're going to constantly just, teach commands over and over and over and over and keep doing that. The other one, we're going to teach commands, but then when they know it, we're going to shift over and go through a reinforcement stage. And I'm going to take it right here. See, so we're going to go through a reinforcement stage. And now, if I hold up a treat and I look at a dog and I say sit, and they put the bottom on the ground, they just told me they know exactly what that is. So I'm not going to use a treat anymore. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself into a bribe situation, right? So you get rid of the treat. Now you're looking at them again. You say sit. Now they have a choice to make. This is where reinforcements come in. If they sit, like you asked, it's all positive reinforcement. You can get the treat out then. You just don't hold it up to bribe them. You can get it out and offer it as a reward, or you can use your praise. If they don't sit, then you go to negative reinforcement. It could be no, sit. It could be something that simple, but you're putting it in black and white instead of just bribing and asking them to do it over and over and over. And that's what you kind of get into with that all positive. A lot of people get into repeating commands. Sit, sit, Fido, sit, Fido, sit, sit. Oh, good boy. And they give them a treat, that kind of thing. Is that realistic? Wouldn't you rather just say, Fido, sit, bam, their butt hits the floor, and then you reward them, give them praise, say, good boy. That to me is realistic. Right, so after reinforcing the stage, now Fido understands what the sit means, understands the consequence of his decision making, right? We do that for each command. The sit, the down, the place, the heel, the come. They need to understand this is what happens when I do it, this is what happens when I don't. And it doesn't, like I said, it's not about being heavy-handed or, putting corrections in there, but it is instilling negative discipline. So they understand that. Now that they understand those, now we take that training, which is you're really going to see your dog really, start becoming something here once they understand reinforcement, because this is basically where they're learning how to communicate with mom and dad. That's what that is. That's what good obedience does. It opens up the lines of communication. Now we take them through a proofing stage. Proofing is short for distraction proofing. What that means is now that we've learned everything, maybe you've done it in your living room, your backyard, somewhere with a trainer over and over, the same place. It's supposed to be, learning and reinforcement should be done with minimal distractions. You should go into a square room with no distractions would be ideal. Get your dog's focus, and that's where you do those types of phases. But once they have it in that square room with no distractions, and they got it, so they know everything, now you take them out to reality scenarios, and that's what we call distraction proofing. Take them out to the park. Take them out to places where they see real scenarios going on, and then make them execute. I don't like dog parks, but I love going to a dog park and using that fence line. I can heel my dogs up and down the fence line, make them sit down, come, all that stuff, and they're sitting there looking at all these dogs in here at that fence. But my dog's learning to focus on me. That's distraction proofing. You can't do that if you've never been through a reinforcement stage. If you're just bribing, your dog's just going to sit there and start barking at these dogs. You're going to lose control, right? So that's the proofing stage. Once they understand that, now you've proofed your all your commands. Now you can go to unleashing, but not until you've done that. That's why dogs are lost all over the place. Dogs won't come when called. It's because people are taking leashes off dogs and they haven't been to the proper training, right? You can't teach a dog to come in a square room and he's doing it in there with no distractions and think you can do the same thing out in the park off leash and tell him to come. It ain't going to happen. He's going to go the other direction. Instinct's going to kick in. He's going to see the bird, the other dog, all the stuff that it's going to make it hard on you. So if you go through these proper stages, once the proofing's there, you can unleash them. And we show you the right way to do that. I would highly suggest like a softball field. It's a large area outdoors, high fences. You can get in there and work on taking your leash off. Obviously, there's a right way to do it. You want to work on your energy. When we get into unleashing and maintaining, there's a lot of working with the owners, their energy, staying calm, what are they visualizing, that kind of thing. And that comes into play there and being a dream dog owner and a leader with this type of dog. But I hope that makes sense, guys. You got to go through all 6 phases right here. Is that right? Awareness, learning, reinforcing, proofing, unleashing, and maintaining. When you do that, you're going to have a dog you can take anywhere at any time, and they're going to listen to you no matter what. But if you only go through a learning stage and then you graduate, you're going to have a dog that knows what everything means. They're going to listen to you when there's nothing going on, but then when you try to take them out and enjoy it in reality scenarios, the training goes out the window. And that's basically the big difference between balanced training and all positive, in my opinion. Again, my opinion from 25 plus years, but that's what I've gathered. And I've been applying it now over thousands of dogs. All right, so with that said, I'm going to get into all the different training tools. And we'll kind of I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but I'm going to say I like this one, I like this one, I like this one, I don't like this, I don't like this, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay? So my training collar is a choice. A buckle collar. Just a regular old collar you get at any pet store, any store really at all that has a pet department, you can get a buckle collar. Those are great for negative reinforcement. Martingale collar is a step up from there. We'll get into that. There's pictures, some visuals coming up. A Hermspringer 2.5 millimeter collar. Again, it's got to be the right brand and the right size, and I'll explain that. And then a dog show remote collar. If you're going to use those, you definitely need to go with a brand that's going to cost you a little bit more, but you want the consistency and timing to be there. When you start trying to save a couple bucks on a remote collar, you're losing consistency. Basically, that's the difference. All right, so here we go. Buckle collars. Does that look familiar? All right. I train a ton of dogs on just this collar right here. And my whole thing, and this is something I share with my clients, is that we always use the collar, the least amount of training, I guess, collar-ish that we need per your dog's personality. So if we were trained together and your dog was able to execute and go through all the training on a buckle collar, we would never even step into a martingale collar. Why should we? Now, we might have to use a buckle collar in the learning stage, and then we get out to reality scenarios. We get to that proofing stage. We might have to step into a martingale or a proofing or more of a Herm Springer type collar. But the idea is that if your training approach is locked in, you should be able to go from tool to tool to tool, depending on scenario, and a dog doesn't miss a beat. It's all about what you're putting out and the words that you're saying. Nothing changes except the tool that the dog's wearing. They don't really see any difference, if that makes sense. So, buckle collar, fantastic tool here. Here's the martingale collars, guys. And I love these. I love these on puppies. I love putting these on an 8-week-old puppy because it starts leash breaking them. I love an 8-week-old puppy, put a martingale on them, put a heavy leash on them, and let them pull it around the backyard. That leash gets hung up on little weeds and rocks and corners, obviously supervised. But what that does is they start feeling that on their neck, and then when you put a leash on them, they're already leash broken instead of flopping all over the place. It's a fantastic way to leash break a puppy. And adult dogs. I have hundreds of clients that wear martingales on their dogs as an adult. And again, it's a fantastic option. It's a step up from a buckle collar. And if you can see the two options here, what I really want to explain is, you remember that red buckle collar I just showed you? Look at the blue one here. See this blue martingale collar? When you have it sized too big and those two loops are basically touching each other, and it's a perfect example there, you're just working with a buckle collar again. So you're using a martingale collar, you're trying to, but you have it too big, and when those two loops touch each other, you might as well just put the buckle collar back on. Ideally, see the black one over here? That's a properly sized buckle collar. And when you put your leash on there, it's going to start getting them into, you can start using this to get their attention. Hey, pay attention, pay attention. That's what you want to do when you get out into these reality scenarios. Right? Herm Springer pinch collar. A lot of people hate these things. You know what? And again, if a martingale collar works for your dog or a buckle collar works for your dog and you can get them to listen outdoors in a reality scenario with those collars, we don't need to step into this. But for dogs that are completely blowing off their training, they're all over the place outside, and even though they know training, you need a tool that can, that kind of matches their energy level. Usually the more higher energy, the more over the top they are, and that's where a lot of times these collars are fantastic. Again, I put 2.25 millimeter because this is a small size. It's only about that wide. And I'll use this same collar on a St. Bernard. I'll just add links all the way around his neck. All these other collars, when you get into medium and large size and extra large, they cost more money. It's marketing. If you walk your big old cane corso into PetSmart, they're going to give you an extra large pinch collar and say, there you go, $75. You're going to say, wow. And then I'm going to get with you and say, no, let's get this one and let's just add a bunch of links because this one is very effective. And again, people aren't understanding the way these are to be worn, and that's for a whole nother video. But I don't know if you can see all the pinches on there, and then see how there's a part that swivels. It goes back and forth, and that's on the bottom there. That's what stays on a neck. When this is properly fitted, it's a snug fit, and those pinches goes all the way around. It's just like grabbing a dog by the scruff. If that makes sense. You grab a dog by the scruff, say, hey, knock it off. But this, where your leash goes, is underneath. Most people have these on way too big, and their leash is up here. Now all the prongs are on their throat. Makes sense? That's the wrong way. And again, it just goes back to awareness, guys. But these are fantastic tools in the right hands. They can also be abused. I want to make sure I'm clear on that. Same with this one. This can be very easily abused, but in the right hands, fantastic tool. Okay? And this is kind of, I don't use these very often anymore, but there is a scenario for every tool. And I'm going to give you an example with this one. I had a lady not too long ago disabled. She's in a wheelchair. She's got a very beautiful Labrador Retriever. But the dog's too big. There's no way that she's going to be able to get what she needs to do with any other type of training other than this. Because I can't have her use a leash and be able, you know what I mean, doing all the stuff with her arm. She doesn't have that, but she can lean over in her wheelchair and hit a button and get her dog to execute. So again, right place and time for all these tools, and if you use a balanced approach, you can swap these in and out. I could have a buckle collar on a dog and then kind of they're running into an issue, we can kind of work them through it. This has a pager mode. You can just page them like your cell phone. These things aren't as bad as people think, but you can do things to work them through the issue and then put the buckle collar back on. A lot of people think that a dog's collar has got to be always that collar. And the way I teach it is like, no, look, you can look over here. Today he's wearing a buckle collar. He's going over to the park tomorrow, and it's going to be awfully hectic. He's a young dog. He needs a little bit of work. We're going to put his martingale on. We might have to put the pinch collar on, but that's kind of how you do it. And then, but once the idea is once you get your dog to the finish line in training, you should be able to pull all these collars off if it's done right. And that's the way I teach it, to do it right. So whatever tool that we need to get us to our goal, we can take it back off. It's not supposed to be something a way of life. And a lot of trainers that are using this tool right here, they're teaching it a way of life. They're putting this on every dog that comes through the door, and they're telling you that the dog needs to wear this all day, every day, and they're creating a crutch. When you take this off your dog, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. And there may be people out there that resonate hearing that you've been through that. And if so, I apologize, but that's what trainers are doing these days. And it's sad. There's some good trainers out there using them. And again, just like anything else, so you got to do your homework, right? So those are all the tools that I recommend. Okay, now I'm going to get into some of the stuff that I don't. Training collars and tools that I do not recommend. Halty harnesses, head collars, gentle leaders, no bark collars, and a quick release Hermspringer. And I'll explain, so let's jump in. All right, have you guys seen any of this stuff? All this stuff masks problems. It's just like a dog that jumps on people at the door. When someone rings the doorbell, they put the dog in the bedroom or put the dog in the crate. Why not just teach the dog not to jump? Wouldn't that be a lot easier? That's why when I see this stuff, I'm like, just get rid of it. Let's teach a dog to heel. Let's teach a dog to walk nicely. This is just a contraption that doesn't allow your dog to show the behavior they're wanting to show. It's not training at all. It's masking issues. There's a bunch of them. Look at all of it. Harness. A lot of people, dogs pulling so much on their throat, so they want to go get a harness because they want to stop the dog from choking. Now they put it on the strongest part of their body. The dog's pulling even more. How about let's just put a collar on them and teach them how to walk? Isn't that easier? See all these things here? They got all these things where you're pulling heads around, and it's. I kind of laugh at some of it. I really do, because you know what? It's just like dogs want to please you. Just show them right and wrong, and that's all they're going to do. Quit putting these contraptions on them because we're lazy and we're not doing the work that we need to do. That's what these are for. That's who people that buy these, and people that are looking for shortcuts. I hate to say it, but that's the truth. This one right here, the reason I'm going to explain both of these is the quick release pinch. Just previously I said the Hermspringer 2.25 is a fantastic tool. It is. This one here, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got a quick release in there. It makes it easier to put it on and off, but you also lose that part that I'm talking about that stays on the throat. It doesn't swivel back and forth as it should. So Hermspringer quick release, get rid of it. As far as the bark collars, these things, again, I would recommend a remote collar in the right hands because you have the remote. What I do not like about these bark collars is that you do not have a remote. You set it up and you put it on the dog, and when the dog barks, it's gonna, whatever you have it set at, they're gonna get a stimulation for it. Unfortunately, what I've seen is that I've seen dogs panic with a bark and it goes off, and then they panic, and it just keeps going. And even good brands. I've chased a dog around the house in pure, it's traumatizing. And I said, never again. Give me a remote where I can turn it off. Don't put this, you know what I mean? I don't like it because of that. And I've heard horror stories since. So I just don't care for them. And that's why no bark collars, no. A remote collar where you have the remote and you can control the barking, yes. Big difference. All right, there's a few more, guys. I'm going to throw in stretchy leash. That should just be obvious. I mean, you're not in control. You're telling your dog to go whatever you want. You can't use any type of collars with it properly. Maybe for a dog that's already trained a stretchy leash, just to have fun. Same with the retractable. Only thing I ever use a retractable leash for is helping dogs get in and out of water, especially pools. You can show them how to get in. They can swim around. You can give them some freedom. You can pull them back. You can show them how to find the steps to get out. These are fantastic tools for that. As far as anything else, get rid of them. They send a terrible message. You know how many people go out and walk their dogs with a retractable and the dog's 15 feet in front of them and they're following them? Think about who's leading and who's following for a 20-minute walk. Then they go back to the house and wonder why the dog won't listen. You just follow. Who's the leader? Who's the follower here? We got to remember pack mentality, all this stuff. This comes into play with all this stuff. That's why I call this stuff like gadgets. It's marketing. It's stuff to get people to buy, and it doesn't really work. The bells. A lot of people love these, but hear me out, okay? Before you say, oh, I love my dog does well. Hear me out. So the bells are, and they work, but the message they send to the dog, to me, is the reason I don't recommend them, is because a dog that's smart like this golden retriever here is going to ring that bell every time it wants to go outside. Doesn't necessarily mean they got to go potty. It could be a bird. It could be a blowing leaf. It could be something. It could be bored. It could be all kinds of things. And trust me, I've heard a lot of the horror stories because of it. Just imagine you finally sit down for work in your home. Maybe you work from home, right? You get in and you're like, all right, I clocked in, logged in, and you're getting ready to work, and then your dog's out here banging the heck out of these bells because he knows you're going to quit what you're doing and go cater to him. Who's in charge? You see the difference? So get rid of those. Just get your dog on a schedule. If your dog's on a schedule when they go potty, you're in charge. Again, big difference. Same with the potty pads. Those basically just teaching your dog to go potty underneath your roof. And I would highly just recommend getting rid of them. It's something that if they are using a potty pad, you still got to transition them off of anyway. And it just what it does, it teaches them, let's just teach them that you are not to go potty underneath this roof. We go outside to go potty. So it sends mixed messages. It causes confusion. I've just seen it over and over. So all these things right here, I would say pitch them if you got them. I'm not trying to be rude. They send poor messages to the dogs. They don't put you in charge. And like I said, they're just mostly gadgets for marketing. All just money makers, really. All right, guys. Hope that makes sense. I kind of ran through it all in a little over about 20 minutes, but I just wanted you to see there's a difference between all positive training and balance training. There's a difference between trainers who use different tools. There's a difference between all these tools. So in a good trainer, I feel, should have all these tools in their toolbox because they never know what they're going to run across with a client, right? As soon as you think you know it all and you got the tool that's going to fix every dog, you're doing it wrong. I promise you that. So I hope you learned something from this. If you want to read more about me and learn more about how I train, go to CoachCaseyRay.com. I go through those 6 steps in a lot more detail. I think you'd enjoy it. Until next time, guys, Casey Ray. I'll catch you later.